leaves no stone unturned. Perfect with no flaws at all. Are the laws of Allah. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise belongs to Allah, and may His peace and blessings be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I welcome you, dear viewers, to this episode where we are with our dear Shaykh discussing the topic of magic, sihr and witchcraft. We have joining us Sheikh Asim al-Hakim from Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Salim al-Amri from the UAE, and Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif from Canada. May Allah reward you all for joining us. Now, we've been looking in our previous episodes about magic and sorcery and all of the things that are forbidden in Islam, the things that we want to be aware of so we can stay away from them. However, we do have alternatives for cures that are valid in Islam. We mentioned medicine, for example. You know, going to a doctor to take a tablet might be the solution to many of our problems. However, we also have the ruqya. Now, for those who aren't aware of this matter, I'm going to ask Sheikh Asim to begin and introduce this matter, what the ruqya is and exactly how a Muslim goes about gaining benefit from it.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi man ihtada bihudahu amma ba'du. The healing process in Islam is, mashallah, second to none. First of all, Islam had indicated to us how to get this healing. It's either physical or spiritual. And the physical part of it is divided into two types. Physical means of healing that we were instructed by the Quran or by the Sunnah. For example, honey. This is physical, but it was recommended by the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ. For example, cupping or cauterizing or something like that, which is a hot piece of metal is used to cauterize and cure certain parts of the body. The habba sawda, the black seed. All of this is part of the physical recommended means of healing and treatment by the Quran or the Sunnah. There is a second type of physical healing which is experimental. Only scientists and physicians, doctors come and say that, listen, if you take this antibiotic, it cures a particular virus. If you take this medical procedure or formula, this is good for your stomach, or this is good for your headache. Something that scientists and doctors all approve, and it's clinical and they find this scientific. There is a spiritual side of it, but before going to the spiritual side, I believe that it is important to address the issue that nowadays there are so-called physical means of healing that are not proven scientifically. So you have this disc of energy, for example, or a bracelet that cures from your rheumatism and pain and bone and joint aches. We go to the doctors, is this proven scientifically? The doctor said, no, there's nothing to prove that this kind of stone drains the tension and the negative waves and radiation from the body, and this does not give you any healing, or it doesn't give you any energy. Yet they sell like crazy on the internet. In Arabia, we find a lot of the brothers practicing, coming into the masjid wearing these bronze or copper bracelets. What is this? Wallahi, once I wore it, it drained all my backache. Subhanallah, put an earring, maybe it drains your headache as well. I said, good idea. So the belief in such things that are not medically proven, not scientifically proven, is part of the shirk. And the shirk is divided into two: akbar, major, and minor. So if you believe that this is a cause by Allah Azza wa Jal to cure you, this is shirk asghar. And if you believe it cures you by itself, this is something that nullifies your Islam.
And explaining this, just before we go ahead, this could be what we call the placebo, that a person is convinced it's going to help, so their body might actually start curing it, thinking that it's not actually that thing. This might explain a lot of the...
I just want to explain the placebo a little bit. There was actually a very famous incident in the US where in a big stadium, somebody became very ill. So they announced on the loudspeakers that we think it was the fountain drinks. So if you drank from the fountain drinks, then, just be careful. So they said that the whole stadium erupted. Everybody's feeling sick and vomiting, and they said it became a disaster. The ambulance is going to the hospital and left and right, because once you play with people's minds and they think something's going to be a healing or a harm, and then they announced on the speakers in the stadium, they said, we found out it wasn't the drink. And then they said people were magically cured.
So subhanAllah, this reminds me of a myth in the Chinese fables and stories. It said that one person had an association, a friendship with a plague. So he met him, and the plague said, I'm going to this village and I'm instructed to kill 500. And the man, they departed. And after a week, he heard that in that village, 5,000 died. So a week or so later, he met the plague and he said, why did you lie to me? You told me that you were instructed to kill 500 only. He said, I was instructed and I only killed 500. The rest of the 4,500 were killed by illusion. And they convinced themselves of such a disease. So this is possible. Now, the spiritual healing, even in Christianity, in Judaism, it's there. But as Muslims, we are only concerned with what is permissible. We are permitted to make ruqya. So when I tell you, do ruqya, this is spiritual healing. What is ruqya? Ruqya is anything that you recite over a sick person or a person who needs healing. And the most preferred thing is to be from the Quran, from the Sunnah. And it's possible to be normal supplication, providing it is audible, it is comprehensible, you are able to understand each and every word. But if it's something that is camouflage and you are not able to understand it, it is forbidden to do it. The best thing you can do for healing is Al-Fatiha. And I've tried this myself on so many people and on myself as well. Of course, this is part of the ruqya, as in the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with them. And it's not only spiritual, the effect is physical. In the authentic hadith, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, I don't want to take the whole session from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him. I will pass the ball in a while, inshallah. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri was in an expedition with other Muslims, and they were starving. They ran out of food. So they saw a tribe, they went to the tribe, and you know, in Arabia, if you have someone coming, you have to host them. But this tribe was not Muslim, and they did not even have the courtesy of the Arabs, the non-Muslim Arabs, to host them, and they rejected them. They didn't give them any food. So as they were camping outside of that tribe, not knowing what to do without any food, a messenger from that tribe came to them and said, listen, does any one of you is capable of doing ruqya? Because this was known before Islam. Can anyone give this spiritual healing? Because our tribe's leader has fallen sick due to a sting of a scorpion or a snake. So one of them said, I can do that, but by Allah. Because you didn't give us food, I'm not going to do it until you give us something. So they agreed on a portion of sheep. Let's say 30 or 40 of them. So the man went to that tribesman, and he was lying, he was dying. And he, as in the hadith, authentic hadith, he only recited Al-Fatiha continuously and blew on him. So he says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, like this. Once, twice, 3, 5, 6, 7 times, until the man stood up as nothing had happened to him. This was miraculous. So they were so happy, they gave him the sheep. The companion said, let's, inshallah, bismillah, start to eat. And what they said, what we did, was it legal? I don't know if this is acceptable in Islam or not. By Allah, we're not going to touch the food. So they took the sheep and they went back to Medina, managed some way or the other to manage without the food. And they told this to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet said, MashaAllah, how did you know it's a ruqya? Yani, who told you that it's a ruqya? It is by Allah a ruqya. So this is the affirmation from the Prophet. It is the best ruqya to be done. And the Prophet ﷺ told him that it's okay for you to eat from that sheep and give me my portion as your leader and messenger.
Jazakallah khair. I'm going to ask you, Shaykh Salim. We've seen from the Sunnah that Al-Fatiha is valid for a ruqya. Now, no doubt, we have many other verses of the Quran. Sometimes you'll find people saying, you know, if someone has so-and-so read this surah this many times, or you find many formulations brought up. Is there anything clearly from the Sunnah other than the reading of Al-Fatiha that we can use for the ruqya? Or is it just any surah? I mean, what are the guidelines?
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man walaha. Regarding the surahs that we read as a cure, the Fatiha, one of its names is Ash-Shafiyah. One of the names of Al-Fatiha, Ash-Shafiyah, the healer. And the Quran, all the Quran is Shifa. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ. So the Quran is Shifa. Anything of it, you read, it is Shifa. But to start saying this surah, if you read this surah, it is for this and surah, that is bid'ah. Unless it is proven otherwise and approved and they sanctioned by the lawgiver. So we say the Fatiha because the Prophet ﷺ said so. So anyone said this surah, tell him what is your proof? What is your proof? That is there anything in this authentic sunnah says so? So what we know from in the authentic sunnah, the qul huwallahu ahad, qul a'udhu birabbil falaq, qul a'udhu birabbin nas, where the Prophet ﷺ used to read in Al-Hasan and Al-Husayn. And in Muwatta Imam Malik, another hadith, the children of Ja'far bin Abi Talib, after their father was martyred, the Prophet ﷺ showed them they are in very weak, unhealthy condition. He said, what is this? They said, this is the effect of the evil eye. He said, why didn't you seek ruqya? Why didn't you read on them? So the Quran in general is shifa, and there are certain surahs mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ specified, we read and put your trust at the end in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah is the healer.
Indeed. Now we're going to stop on this point. May Allah reward you all. We're going to go to a very short break, so we'll be back very shortly. So dear viewers, do stay tuned. Inshallah, we'll be back with you after a very short moment.
Islam solves all.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers. We are here discussing with our dear Shaykh the topic of magic, witchcraft, sihr, and all things related. Now, Sheikh Salim, before the break, you were mentioning a few of the authentic evidences for the ruqya, for example, the surahs that we recite. You mentioned Al-Fatiha, the 3 quls. Is there anything more than this?
And also I wanted to ask Sheikh Salim as well, if you can give us a little explanation of, for the mothers and fathers out there, how do they do ruqya, or how do they recite over their children? If the child is like 2 years old, 1 year old, do they just read and touch the child, or do they make the child read with them, or do they blow on the child? How do they do it?
Alhamdulillah. The Prophet ﷺ used to read on Al-Hasan and Al-Husayn when they were small, and you can put your hand on the child and you blow. While you are reading, you are blowing on while reading the surahs. Okay, so that is...
what does that mean, you're blowing? Like you recite and then you go...
Yeah, like this. Okay. And this also takes us that, how about what is called mahu? Okay, this is another way how to treat the sihr. Okay, that reading on water or zamzam water, or reading on saffron. So the ulama, they have mentioned these things, and the salaf, they were using these techniques to nullify the effect of the sihr.
Now on this point, just while we've got it before we lose it from here, a lot of people, you'll see what they do is they'll take a page of the Quran and dip it in the cup, or they will actually leave it in the cup and drink from it. And I've even heard of some people going to the extremes of cutting the pages of the Quran and adding it to food and then eating it.
No,
now, this is obviously something which is...
That's not permissible.
This is deviant.
Because that means you show no respect to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Now, on this point, again, I want to focus on it while we've got it. You will find that, of course, the Quran, as you mentioned, is a shifa. It is a cure. However, it doesn't mean, like you've said, that we eat it. It doesn't mean that we drink it. Rather, it means that we observe it, we recite it. Now, a common thing that a lot of people do in their houses is they will play Quran on the CD. And they will say this is a protection. However, I've heard some others, and I want to get your opinions on this. Some say that simply listening is enough. However, others say, no, you should read it. For example, reading Surah Al-Baqarah, they would say it means you read it and not just play it. What are the opinions on this matter?
Well, actually, I believe that it is a form of worship, and playing it to those who are able to recite it, it would not do the job. It is like people nowadays call the adhan by a tape recorder, and they think that this is enough. No, the adhan is a form of worship. It has to be done by an individual at a time. Otherwise, I would bring a CD with Sheikh Sudais praying Taraweeh and play it in the masjid, and we all pray behind that CD. This is not the case. However, I found actually, and I still do find, that one of the best means of treatment for such sihr and witchcraft is to, first of all, relieve yourself from any connection to other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Just feel helpless to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from anything that connects you with this world. And I have so many stories about this. I remember one brother called me from Medina, and I was living in Jeddah. Medina is about 400 and plus kilometers from Jeddah, 500 almost kilometers away from Mecca. So the brother was crying on the phone. I don't know him. And he said, Sheikh, I have a problem. What's your problem, my friend? He said that I've been married for a month. Until date, I did not consummate the marriage. I'm unable to approach my wife. So I said, maybe, akhi, you should take a blue pill or go and see the doctor. He said, Sheikh, I have nothing wrong. I've seen the doctors and they say there's nothing physically wrong with you. So I said, maybe you are weak. He said, Sheikh, I'm strong as a bull. So I said, in this case, definitely you are a sinful person. You have means of recreation in your house. You have sins that is impairing you. He said, Sheikh, I am a student of knowledge and I have circles in Medina, Haram, for the Quran, and I don't know what to do. And the guy was, crying. So I said, Akhi, wallahi, the only cure that I know that would help you a lot is to surrender yourself to Allah by saying that no one can cure me except you, O Allah. Oh Allah, I am helpless. I have nowhere else to go. You have so many servants other than me, but I have only one Lord. So I do beg you, I pray to you, oh Allah, and you do this with the intention to cure yourself, first of all, and do not doubt, I said to him. Be sure, because it's not something you're going to try and maybe, it's not going to harm us. Let's give it a shot. Do it knowingly, your conviction that Allah will cure you. And I hung up. When you have trust in Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah cures you.
This is very important, Jazakallah khair. When we are mentioning these things as means of cure, the most important thing that you should know that Allah is the healer. These are only means. Okay? If you think the medicine will heal you, that is shirk. Or the doctor will heal you, that's shirk. And the Arabs before Islam, the mushriks, they would come to the Prophet ﷺ and they would say, oh, Prophet of Allah, after they became Muslims, things we used to do, ruqyas, before Islam, we want you to check, are they okay? Can we carry on? So he said, okay, read to me. Then he said, لا بأس بالرقية ما لم تكن شركا. There is nothing wrong with the ruqyah as long as it doesn't involve any polytheistic belief. So, and another hadith he said, من استطاع أن ينفع أخاه فليفعل. Whoever can help his brother by any means to help him, do so. So because of these ahadiths, that's why you find the stories I mentioned about reading on the green leaves or reading on water and things like this. Because the Sharia did not prohibit these things. And they are not involving shirk.
Indeed. Now, I've got a question, because Sheikh Asim, you mentioned the advice that you gave to this boy, may Allah reward you for this. Before finding the solution, you mentioned make umrah, make dua, pray to rakat. Now this brings to mind, of course, that we are protected from shaitan when we're sincere to Allah. Now someone might come along and they might say, Shaykh, I have a problem, I'm possessed or witchcraft or something. Give me the solution. Meaning read some Quran or do something, but maybe this person doesn't pray. Maybe this person does not make dua. Maybe they don't fast. Maybe they're very far from Allah. Can ruqya fix everything, or do they also have to fix themselves?
There was one sheikh that used to help people in this regard. And I was reading his book, and he had a beautiful way of format. What he would do is he would tell the person that before we even do any ruqya, we can only set an appointment for 1 month later. And he said, in that 1 month, you have to get back in control with your salah. You have to, for the sisters now, you need to wear hijab. You need to start saying Bismillah before you eat. You have to do everything. And then those are the natural protections, like after a month of doing that, then come back to me. And he would say that one of the first questions he would ask when they come back, did you do that? And make sure that they have a foundation on which to build up these other things.
And it might be that if they do it, they might not even need to see him.
At that
Because
time,
maybe
they
this
are
was the
pure,
problem.
mashallah.
I may comment on this. In the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, when he recited the Fatiha, was the patient Muslim? He wasn't, yet he benefited. So to say that doing ruqya for someone who does not pray or for someone who is not a practicing Muslim, he has to become a practicing Muslim first? No, I disagree with this. It may help, yes, but what usually I do when people come to me is like what Sheikh Muhammad said. I turn them towards Allah Azza wa Jal, because I usually ask, the majority of them are sisters. Sheikh, do this, do that, and I say, listen, who's in more need? Who's more desperate, me or you? And she said, I am. And then I say, Allah says in the Quran, أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ. Who is it that answers the call of the one desperate? It's Allah Azza wa Jal. So whenever someone is more desperate, Allah Azza wa Jal is closer to him. I'm in my air-conditioned room, in my house or in my office. I'm not that desperate that you are desperate. You are in need to Allah Azza wa Jal cure. So you turn to Allah and Allah will answer you. But the problem is the people want a straw to hang onto when they are swimming, when they're drowning. They want something. So they think that, okay, let's go to the sheikh or to the sheikh, whoever's beard is longer. This is not the case. It is the case of your belief.
Now it's interesting, just before we wrap up, because we were talking about before how all of these things could actually be a trial for you. Now you've mentioned that some people might come and they might be a little bit far away, as you've mentioned in this case. And then, as a reminder, you say to them, before we even begin, make sure that you're praying, make sure you're doing all of these things. And we know that when someone has a calamity, they turn to Allah. So it could be that even though they dislike this melody, this thing that has fallen upon them, it may bring them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed. So
It is a way to make da'wah, actually.
Definitely so.
That's why the Sheikh was used this as a chance. Because he's in need, so whatever you tell him, he's ready to do it.
Yeah, so rather than curing a small problem, you end up solving a much bigger problem.
Yes,
So
just 1 minute for the evil eye. The evil eye is true. And 2 of the Sahaba, they were bathing. And one of them, when he saw the other one, he said, wow, what a beautiful skin you got. And that one fell immediately on the ground. And the Prophet ﷺ came and he asked the one who said so to take a wudu and collected the water and pour it on that Sahabi, and he got up. So when you see something...
You think we have to, give a whole session on evil eye and envy? What do you think?
inshallah, we'll try to dedicate our next episode to this. We have run out of time. May Allah reward you all for the contribution. And may Allah reward you, our dear viewers, for also joining us. We hope, inshallah, that you've received a lot of benefit from this program. And we hope, inshallah, that you'll join us in our coming episodes. Until then, I greet you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, no stone.